Warner Bros. Buried a solo Ben Affleck Batman film that would have changed everything, and the reason they killed it is something they never wanted you to know. Not just another superhero movie, a noir thriller set entirely in Gotham built around a version of Batman who had already lost. The deal was signed. The script existed. Joe Manganiello had a Deathstroke costume fitted, and then Warner Bros. Made it disappear. You're going to find out exactly what that project was, why it mattered, and the real reason it died. Because it wasn't creative differences. It wasn't a scheduling conflict. The buried reason is worse than any of that, and it tells you exactly how Warner Bros. Makes decisions about the properties they own. Go back to 2013. Warner Bros. Is watching Marvel print money with the Avengers, and they are panicking. They greenlight Man of Steel, it performs well enough, and suddenly there's a plan, a connected DC universe to rival Marvel. The centerpiece is Batman, not a new Batman. A seasoned, brutal, world-weary Batman who had already fought the war and lost pieces of himself doing it. In August 2013, they announced Ben Affleck in the role. The backlash was immediate and loud. But inside Warner Bros., the thinking was different. Affleck wasn't just being hired as an actor. He was being handed a franchise. He had the Oscar, the credibility, the business instincts. The plan was always for him to star in, produce, and eventually direct his own standalone film. That deal was in place before Batman v Superman ever started shooting. Here's what you were never supposed to piece together. By early 2016, Ben Affleck had already co-written a full solo Batman script with DC Entertainment's chief creative officer Jeff Johns. Not an outline. A complete draft. The story centered on Batman infiltrating Arkham Asylum, and it was described by everyone who read it as genuinely dark, nothing like anything DC had put on screen. In October 2016, Affleck posted footage to Twitter. Deathstroke on a rooftop. Joe Manganiello in costume moving through shadow. That wasn't fan art. That wasn't a concept reel. That was a test shoot for his film. Manganiello had already signed on as the villain. Warner Bros. Had committed a budget. The film had a director, a star, a script, a villain, and test footage. That is a greenlit movie. They called it The Batman. They had a release window. All of it existed in writing in 2016. Then Batman v Superman opened in March 2016 and made $873 million worldwide. That number sounds like a win. It wasn't. Critics destroyed it. The audience score cratered. On social media, the discourse turned toxic. Warner Bros. Had staked their entire DC strategy on this film as the launchpad, and the launchpad was on fire. Internally, executives began pulling back. Not publicly they stood by the plan, but in private, the conversations shifted. The question stopped being how do we build on this and started being how do we distance ourselves from it. Affleck's Batman was the face of the Snyder era, which meant Affleck's Batman had become a liability, not to audiences, to the executives who read trade press instead of box office reports. And here is the part they really buried. In late 2016, Warner Bros. CEO Kevin Tsujihara commissioned an internal review of the entire DCEU strategy. Conclusion of that review was not that the films were bad. The conclusion was that they were too dark, too interconnected, and too dependent on a single creative vision, Zack Snyder's. The fix they landed on was not to course correct. The fix was to burn it down and rebuild, and every element tied to the Snyder universe had to go. That meant Affleck. In January 2017, he announced he was stepping down as director of The Batman, citing creative anxiety and the scale of the project. That was the cover story. The real story, reported later by The Hollywood Reporter and confirmed by multiple sources close to the production, was that the decision had already been made for him. Warner Bros. Was pivoting to a lighter, standalone DC strategy, what would eventually become the Reeves universe with Robert Pattinson, and Affleck's deal gave them the contractual latitude to restructure his involvement without a public fight. Remember that signed deal from 2016. Here's where it died, not in a writer's room, not on a set, but in a conference room on the Warner Bros. Lot during a strategy session the press was never allowed inside. The Arkham script was shelved. Manganiello was out. The film was quietly reassigned. Think about what that means for the last decade of DC cinema. A connected universe anchored by an older, harder Batman, the version most comics readers actually want, was never built. The Johns Affleck Arkham script has never been released, though people who have read it describe it as the most ambitious Batman film ever drafted. Instead, Warner Bros. Spent 8 years rebooting and re-explaining why 3 different actors played the same character in 6 years. You were supposed to see that movie. They decided you wouldn't. That script still exists somewhere in a vault on the Warner Bros. Lot. Nobody has leaked it. Nobody has officially confirmed what's in it. Which raises a question they haven't answered. What else are they sitting on? Because Warner Bros. Is not the only studio with a vault.